Hi, I'm Gavin Wedell from Management Consultancy International. Welcome to this brief video podcast on time management. Today we're going to look at some essential skills that you need in order to help you manage your time more effectively. Let's have a look at our outline. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover today is we're going to learn how to conduct a time audit. How can we figure out where our time is going, and then once we've done that, how can we manage our time more effectively? Next up, we're going to look at our energy cycle. We're going to fill in an energy cycle graph and try and map out where our energy is, where are the peaks and where are the troughs of the amount of energy that we have. And then we'll be able to learn how to work according to that cycle, or work with our body's natural rhythms, and plan our hardest work for when we've got the most energy. Thirdly, we're going to create goals and objectives. This is something that few people do often enough, and it's something that is quite important, particularly in the business environment, where we need to think strategically, not just about our business life, but also about our personal and professional development. Fourthly, we need to distinguish between urgent and important activities. How do we reconcile how much time we're spending reacting to things that seem urgent, and how much time do we spend being proactive about important things that don't seem like they're in a crisis point? Fifth, we're going to learn how to communicate with impact. How do we speak to our colleagues, our subordinates, and our management in order to make sure that they understand what our expectations are of them, and what we understand that their expectations of us are. Sixth up, we have how to say no effectively. And this is something that a lot of us struggle with. How do we let someone know that what we're working on at the moment is very important for us to be working on, and we can't necessarily move to help them at that moment? And lastly, we're going to look at some housekeeping issues. How do we manage our personal space? What systems do we use? And how can we manage just these little housekeeping type issues in order to make sure that they're as efficient and streamlined as possible? Okay, so let's get started. Firstly, we're going to learn how to conduct a time audit. Now, if we use a simple template like this chart that you can see here, and you can download that from our MCI website, what we're going to do is we're going to fill this in religiously for a whole day. So we're going to write the activity we're doing, whether it's a core activity or a non-core activity, and whether it's complete or not. So let's have a look at an example that Mr. Example has done. So we see here that Mr. Example has performed a time audit, and it's blue. In the morning he's decided that he wants to catch up on his emails, but what's actually happened is he's arrived 15 minutes late from his travel. So that's pushed his email catch up back 15 minutes, and then when he does go have his coffee and catch up on his email, it takes a whole hour rather than 15 minutes. Next up, he wanted to meet with the team for 15 minutes. But what he's ended up doing is discussing sales objectives with the team for an hour rather than just the 15 minutes. So he's already blown his time budget by an hour and a half already. Next up, he was going to begin working on the presentation for client X at 10:30, but instead of being able to fulfill the 2 hours that he'd allocated, he only had an hour and a half to work on that, because he's been interrupted by showing his new assistant the database system. That's something he hadn't planned to do. At 12:30, he's made his lunch meeting with Brian, his client, and that was successful. But at 1:30, he had to continue working for his presentation for client X, instead of starting to work on his sales report for the management meeting. If we just skip through to the end of the day, what's happened is that you can see in this time audit that where he's planned to spend his time and where he's actually spent his time are two very different things. So then Mr. Example can use this as a tool to figure out how he should be planning his day. Right, let's move on. So after you've completed your time audit, and you'll all be doing this religiously tomorrow, after we've completed our time audit, we're going to look at our own individual energy cycle. Now, everyone has a unique energy cycle, and it doesn't just start off in a linear manner. Sometimes people are morning people and they get a lot of their productive work done in the mornings. Other times people get their productive work done in the evenings or towards the end of the day. So what we'd like you to do is download a energy cycle template, again from our website, and actually fill in the graph. And on the x-axis, or the bottom axis, you can see the time of the day going across, and on the y-axis you can see how much energy, in terms of the percent of energy that this person has. So let's have a look at this example. In the morning they start off with just a sort of an average energy level, and then it moves up and up until they have their mid-morning coffee. Then it comes down and down and down before lunch, and back up after their lunch break for their afternoon coffee, and then it has another slump down to the end of the day's work. So this person really needs to plan in for their most difficult work during their most productive times, which seem to be just after morning coffee and about an hour after lunch, just after they've had their afternoon coffee. So that's when we should be planning for our most important meetings, and also plan to get our creative work done. And of course it's the creative work that we need to have the most energy for, not the administration types of duties. Righto, next up let's look at setting clear goals. Now, how many of us actually spend some time thinking about our short, medium and long-term goals? This is something that we all need to do, and few of us do thoroughly. So again, when we're downloading our energy cycle and our time audit sheet, we're going to also download a template for setting goals, and we're going to fill this out. Let's have a look at an example done by Mr. Ed Sample. So his short-term goals are to finish his marketing presentation and sales report and get his car repaired. As well as he wants to contact Brian to follow up after a lunch meeting, and pick up his son Billy from soccer this afternoon. His medium-term goals there's some personal goals. So he wants to lose some weight, he wants to earn a promotion at work, and he wants to get a new contract for his sales department. In terms of his long-term goals, and these are 5 to 10-year goals, he wants to buy a house in leafy suburbia, don't we all? Wants to complete his master's degree, put his kids through private schooling, buy a hobby farm, and very long-term goal, he wants to enter academia following his successful commercial career. Now, if you're unsure of some of your goals, that's okay. You might just put in your ambitions if you can reword them like that. Don't get too scared if you don't have too many long-term goals. These are things that take people a long time in order to crystallize in their minds. Let's move on. All of our goals should follow this 5-letter acronym. They should be SMART goals. They should be, firstly, specific. They should be measurable. They should be achievable. They should be relevant, and they should be timely. It's important to have dreams. When we're setting goals, it's very important also that those dreams are attainable. Okay, let's look at communicating with impact. How do we make our expectations clear and say no? What I'm going to show you now is an example of when I was working on my video podcast script, and I was asked to come away from this work and work on something else. I had to be assertive and say no. So let's look at role play number 1, where I was very poor in my assertiveness skills.